Our hero prepares, his hands gripping tightly, all his training culminating in this single moment. The monstrous pharaoh unleashes a powerful attack, determined to become the strongest. But our boy counters with a devastating punch, fueled by sheer will. A powerful phoenix fist erupts, striking the monstrous pharaoh with incredible force. The impact sends shockwaves, reflected in the wide, intense gaze of our fighter. The Labyrinth King Pharaoh is defeated, our level 974 fighter standing victorious. Other adventurers look on in awe, marveling that anyone could defeat the formidable pharaoh. A congratulatory message appears on screen, celebrating his victory with a single decisive punch. This entire world, we learn, is a VR MMORPG known as Versus Online, and our protagonist, the King of Fists, is quite the celebrity in this virtual realm. He had dedicated himself to mastering the fist, the game's so-called weakest weapon. And just before the servers shut down, he achieved his goal of defeating every single boss. With his quest complete, he prepares to log out for the very last time. But in the real world, the man behind the avatar is gaunt and utterly exhausted. His body finally gives out and he collapses backward from his chair. He realizes he hasn't eaten a proper meal in almost 2 weeks. As his vision fades to black, he wonders if this is how he dies. But he has no regrets, having accomplished everything he set out to do. Suddenly, a frantic voice screams at him, trying to wake him from the darkness. He opens his eyes to a strange young man telling him to get ready. The young man calls out, announcing that Kazuya is finally awake. Kazuya, our hero, can only stare back in utter confusion. He struggles to understand where he is. But the room he's in looks just like his childhood home, and sitting at the table are his mother and father, looking just as he remembers them. His mind rejects the scene before him. He rushes to the bathroom sink, splashing water on his face, recalling he left this place over a decade ago. But when he looks up at his reflection, his heart stops. The face staring back isn't his own, but that of his much younger self. His mind screams in denial. He's supposed to be 30 years old. But no matter how he looks at it, this is the body of a teenager. Just then, a news report on the TV catches his attention, mentioning that monsters have appeared in the city, but an adventurers guild will handle it. Kazuya can't believe what he's hearing his parents discuss so casually. The broadcast suddenly cuts to the terrifying eye of a massive beast. It's an evil boar, a monster now rampaging through the streets. His mother recoils in fear, while Kazuya questions if monsters are actually real in this world. Overwhelmed, he stumbles back to his room, trying to make sense of it all. He scans the familiar space, his eyes landing on a stack of papers on his desk. It's a pamphlet for a school he's never heard of. It describes a school that trains swordsmen and mages, something he thought only existed in games. He realizes that in this world, schools exist for the sole purpose of fighting monsters. There's so much he needs to confirm about this strange new world. He may not understand how or why he was brought here, but a thrilling realization dawns on him. He can fight for real, just like in Versus Online. He vows to become the King of Fists all over again, this time in a world teeming with actual monsters. With his new purpose clear, he knows exactly where to start. His eyes land on a smartphone sitting on the nearby desk. His first move is to gather as much information as he can. He starts by looking up the school he's supposed to attend, but what he finds on their website leaves him speechless. The school's curriculum is laid out in front of him, detailing skills like bash and fire arrow for different combat courses. He watches a demonstration video and realizes with a jolt that these are the exact same skills from Versus Online. But the school expects students to take 3 years just to master these basics. He collapses onto his bed, seeing no point in attending such a place. Then a new thought crosses his mind. How does he check his own status? He tries to summon it like he did in the game, by calling out the icon. Taking a deep breath, he prepares to yell out the command. He screams at the top of his lungs, demanding his status to open. But nothing happens, and he wonders if he's using the wrong words. He paces his room frantically, shouting the command again and again. The noise brings his mother to his door, telling him to keep it down. Kazuya awkwardly asks his mother if she knows anything about his status. She thinks for a moment, then asks if he's talking about his skill sheet. She hands him a document, reminding him not to lose it before his school guidance session. Kazuya takes the paper, his heart racing with newfound hope. He wonders what kind of skills his new power granted. The stats show growth, but the skills look painfully mediocre. He is shocked by how low his weapon mastery level is. Skill upgrades only boosted his physical endurance slightly. The teacher explains skills can be learned through proper training. The protagonist doubts he can even enter middle school. The mentor encourages him, telling him not to give up. He concludes that his current skills are completely useless. He imagines himself a fist king battling a powerful monster. Kazuya turns to his father, asking a hesitant question. He expresses his deep concern, wondering if he can truly become strong. His hand clenches in frustration, feeling weak despite this world's monsters and magic. His father questions his sudden doubts about attending school, but his father offers a warm smile, explaining that accepting weakness is the first step. Kazuya looks up, deeply moved, as his father assures him he will grow stronger. With renewed resolve, Kazuya clenches his fist, offering a heartfelt thanks. He declares with conviction that he will become strong. The family shares a moment, Kazuya's determination now clear. His father then directs him to a specific place for tomorrow, pointing to the skill sheet. The paper his father pointed to is a flyer for the grand opening of a training ground. Arriving at the location, Kazuya is ecstatic to find it's just like a real-life game world. The man at the counter even tells him that weapon rentals are free for his age. All around him, adventurers are honing their skills with various weapons. He presents his skill sheet and is given a simple wooden log to practice with. But as he examines the sheet, he notices something strange about the skill tree. It contains a fist-fighting skill, which should be impossible for his swordsman class to possess. A powerful realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. In this world, there are no game-like restrictions on acquiring skills. He could combine mace proficiency with healing and enhancement magic to create an unstoppable build. Kazuya grits his teeth, determined to learn a new skill through sheer force of will. He pours all his energy into striking the training log, trying to unlock the ability. After 8 grueling hours, he's surrounded by shattered wood, now trying to command his body to heal. But he realizes with a sigh that simply praying for recovery isn't working. He stares down at his raw, scraped hands, focusing his intent on the word recover. Suddenly, his eyes widen in complete and utter shock. A soft, magical glow envelops his hands as the bleeding miraculously stops. He can't believe it. He's actually managed to use the heal skill. The skin on his hands begins to mend, though the recovery seems to stop partway through. He figures that after 8 hours of constant effort, he's probably just run out of magic power. He reflects on how he managed to learn heal, feeling a power beyond his own physical strength. The attendant warns him not to overdo it, but Kazuya's next goal is already set: physical enhancement. A full week passes in his relentless pursuit of power. Other adventurers can't help but notice the kid who was there until closing time last week is back again. The attendant confirms it, revealing Kazuya has been training for over 8 hours every single day. Kazuya pushes on, feeling as if he's possessed by his own overwhelming ambition. After a week of this grueling effort, he's finally confirmed his suspicions about this world. It operates on the same fundamental principles as Versus Online, meaning his game knowledge is still useful. He's already learned a physical enhancement skill, allowing him to swing the mace at full power for an hour straight. With his path forward clear, his next objective is to raise his mace proficiency to level 10. His concentration is suddenly broken by someone walking past him. It's a young woman with a determined look, holding a wooden practice sword. He watches as she begins her own training, guided by an older man. She seems to be asking if the man is her father, looking a bit flustered. Kazuya can't help but compare the scene to his own dad, who only ever plays games. But this gives him a new idea: to try and sculpt the log with his mace. The girl and her father watch him, finding the mace-wielding boy a bit strange. They observe Kazuya's relentless assault on the log, noting his fierce dedication. The father looks closer, realizing there's a purpose behind the seemingly random swings. He smiles, recognizing the look of someone who is completely serious about their goal. The young woman watches, realizing he's completely focused on his goal. Kazuya, meanwhile, decides to just put all his power into a single swing. But his grip fails, and the mace goes flying from his hands. Another full week passes, and Kazuya is still at it, meticulously carving a wooden beast with his mace. But with one final misplaced strike, the entire sculpture shatters. He cries out in frustration, lamenting that he was so close to finishing it. He collapses in defeat, unable to complete a single sculpture after a week of trying. He questions if his proficiency is even rising, though he can feel it takes less effort to swing the mace. The girl sees him there again, vowing to herself that she won't be left behind. He decides to switch up his training, hoping for a different outcome. But in his frustration, he loses his grip on the training log. It soars through the air, right towards the unsuspecting girl. Kazuya's face contorts in panic, shouting a warning. She turns around, confused by the sudden commotion. The heavy piece of wood descends right on top of her. Kazuya lets out a primal scream, willing it to break apart. He lunges forward, intercepting the log with everything he has. His eyes burn with sheer determination in the critical moment. The log shatters into 1,000 pieces, leaving the girl completely unharmed. The girl can only stare up at him in absolute awe. The dust settles, revealing Kazuya standing amidst the debris. He looks down at his own hand, realizing the sheer power and range of that attack. It was the skill Bash, an ability unlocked at Mace Proficiency Level 5. A grin spreads across his face. All that grueling training had finally paid off. He suddenly remembers the girl who is still watching him with a bewildered expression. Kazuya rushes over with a bright smile, asking if she's all right. Later, she reveals that he'll be attending the same school as her starting in April. She introduces herself as Karen Tanya, a third-year student and now his senior. Kazuya can only stammer out a thank you, completely flustered by the encounter. Karen smiles, flattered by his respect, and offers to help him if he's ever in trouble. She then confesses that she's actually been wanting to talk to him for some time. Kazuya can hardly believe what he's hearing. She explains that his relentless 8-hour training sessions have made him something of a local celebrity. He admits that today was the very first time he'd ever managed to use the Bash skill. She's stunned, revealing that it's a skill that normally takes 3 years to master in school. But she sees it as proof of all his incredible hard work. His dedication inspires her, making her realize she needs to step up her own game. Kazuya then asks if she knows of any other places where he can train with a mace for free. It turns out he's been buying the training logs with his own allowance, and his funds are running low. Karen notes that while the rental items are cheap, the cost must be adding up. Kazuya realizes he can't get stronger if he's broke, but then a new idea strikes him. She suggests a simple solution to his money problem: slaying monsters. She pulls out her phone, showing him a slime nest in the forest of a nearby town. The screen displays a list of known slime habitats in the area. She assures him that with his Bash skill, he should be perfectly safe taking them on. However, she advises him to go with a parent or guardian for safety. Kazuya's mind flashes back to his gaming days, grinding monsters for gold and experience. The thought of being able to do that in this new reality is almost overwhelming. His imagination is already filled with the image of the slimes he's about to face. He unleashes his newfound power, smashing a slime with a single decisive blow. The thrill of real combat is even better than he ever imagined. He realizes he can gain experience, level up his skills, and even earn money all at once. It's the perfect way to accelerate his path to becoming the strongest. 2 hours later, he takes a well-deserved break from his monster-slaying spree. He proudly displays a bag full of slime cores, pleased with the high drop rate. Deciding this scouting trip is a success, he starts heading home, already planning his next haul. But something in the woods suddenly catches his attention. A bead of sweat forms as he tries to identify the creature lurking nearby. A horned rabbit emerges from the undergrowth, its gaze fixed right on him. Kazuya realizes he's ventured too deep into the woods, facing the horned rabbit. He swings his mace, but the agile horned rabbit swiftly dodges the attack. The creature leaps past Kazuya, its speed making it a difficult target to hit. Kazuya's eyes widen in shock, realizing the monster is incredibly fast. He observes the horned rabbit, noting its speed is on a completely different level from the slimes. Kazuya grips his mace, deciding to use a specific skill to counter its speed. He unleashes his Bash skill, striking the horned rabbit with a powerful blow. The rabbit is sent flying, but Kazuya seems surprised by the impact. The horned rabbit's eye glows, and Kazuya realizes his attack was too shallow to be decisive. Kazuya looks panicked as the horned rabbit charges again, realizing his remaining energy is gone. He knows from his current stance that a counterattack is impossible. The rabbit closes in, and he realizes he's not fast enough to react. A cry of desperation escapes him as the monster lunges forward. The horned rabbit's horn tears right into his arm. A painful reminder washes over him. This isn't a game. This is reality, and he desperately tries to cast heal on his wound. He analyzes the creature, noting its incredible speed for a low-level monster. He understands that if his next attack isn't a clean hit, he's as good as dead. With everything on the line, he swings his mace at the airborne rabbit. He knows he has to draw the creature in as close as possible. The horned rabbit lunges forward, its horn aimed right for his heart. Kazuya grits his teeth, enduring the immense pressure of the moment. He braces himself, tensing every muscle in his body for the impact. With a furious roar, he puts every last ounce of his strength into his counter. His mace slams down with incredible force. The blow connects perfectly, right on the monster's head. The life drains from the creature's eyes in an instant. Kazuya stands over his defeated foe, breathing heavily as he warns it not to move. But the horned rabbit is still, and Kazuya can finally catch his breath, victorious. Kazuya stares down at the fallen beast, the reality of his victory sinking in. He clutches his chest, the fear of the battle still fresh in his mind. He understands just how close he came to the edge, knowing that a single misstep would have meant his certain death. This world isn't a game. He has to completely change his mindset to survive. He decides to take the horned rabbit's body with him. He remembers Karen telling him he could cash in monster drops at the ward office. And so, for an entire week, he grinds in the slime nest from dawn till dusk. His hard work pays off, earning him nearly 100,000 yen and a newfound love for monster hunting. With his funds secured, his next goal is to acquire a skill sheet to track his progress at home. Kazuya, having spent another week monster hunting, is thanked by the woman at the counter. She expresses gratitude for his continued efforts in monster subjugation. She then presents him with a skill sheet, explaining how to activate it with a drop of blood. Kazuya thanks her, but she insists the ward office is grateful for his 2 weeks of contributions. She praises him for being a tremendous help to the ward office. She marvels at his consistent delivery of over 20 kilograms of slime cores daily. The sheer volume of his weekly haul of monster drops is evident on the scale. Kazuya blushes, realizing he's become quite the local celebrity for his efforts. Suddenly, his parents appear, looking at him with disbelief and concern. Kazuya stares back, utterly stunned to see his mother and father there. He demands to know what on earth Kazuya is doing there. His mother looks on with worry, asking him to tell them the truth. His father grabs him, immediately assuming he's having money problems. He explains that rumors of a kid hauling 20 kilograms of slime cores daily piqued his curiosity, leading him right to his own son. Kazuya proudly declares that he defeated every single slime himself, but his father explodes in anger, refusing to believe he could do it with his skills. The accusation hits Kazuya hard, his confidence faltering. As Kazuya turns to leave, his father tries to stop him. But Kazuya's expression is cold, telling him that if he won't believe him, then so be it. Back in his room, Kazuya reflects that in the end, nothing has truly changed. Even after being reborn in another world and coming back from death, his father is still the same man who never believed in him. But then he wonders if he's really any different himself. His uniform hangs nearby, ready for the school entrance ceremony tomorrow. All that's left is to check the skill sheet he bought, which has finished its appraisal. He activates it with a drop of his own blood, just as he suspected. The results are staggering. He didn't need 3 years to acquire a new skill. He knows that in school, students spend years just to learn a single one. Kazuya can't believe no one else has figured out this world's simple rules. A confident smile spreads across his face as everything clicks into place. All the knowledge he gained in Versus Online is completely applicable in this new reality. He realizes his dream of becoming the ultimate king of fists is now within reach. And in this world, he can finally prove his true capabilities to his father. He vows to grow stronger, one step at a time. The day of the school entrance ceremony finally arrives. Cherry blossom petals drift through the air, marking a new beginning. All around him, other students are arriving with their proud families. His own father, meanwhile, is busy snapping pictures of Kazuya's big day. Kazuya can only let out a sigh, a little overwhelmed by his father's enthusiasm. Kazuya looks up at the massive school building, a little intimidated by its scale. His mother tries to mend the rift, explaining that his father's anger comes from a place of worry. He looks down, quietly acknowledging her words. She offers him a gentle, understanding smile. An announcement calls them to their seats. The entrance ceremony is about to begin. On stage, a young woman welcomes the new students, introducing herself as the student council president, Karen Tanya. Kazuya is completely shocked. It's the same girl from the training grounds. He notes that she has a completely different, more commanding presence here. He listens as she speaks of the many trials they will all face. Her speech paints a picture of students helping each other grow stronger together. She speaks of a future where they stand together against monstrous threats. And by never giving up, they will all become strong and dependable adventurers. She hopes they will one day become heroes who save the world, beloved by all. With a humble bow, she concludes her welcoming address. In the crowd, another student looks on with admiration for Karen's words. The crowd erupts in applause as she flashes a playful peace sign. An older man then takes the stage, introducing himself as Principal Todoroki. The mention of a skill appraisal system catches Kazuya completely off guard. The principal explains that at this school, students aim to acquire skills over 3 years. And to that end, they have a full-time dedicated skill appraiser on staff. The principal introduces Mr. Ujihara, the school's dedicated skill appraiser, who will hold a special session. With a mischievous grin, the principal challenges any new student with a skill to step forward. Other students dismiss it as the principal's usual prank, believing no freshman could have a skill yet. The principal points into the crowd, singling out a surprised student to come forward. Kazuya, looking startled, asks if he can borrow a weapon as he rises. The principal, intrigued, permits Kazuya to select a weapon from the school's arsenal. From the audience, Kazuya's father shouts his son's name in utter shock. Karen watches Kazuya, softly whispering his name with a blush. Kazuya stands on stage, facing the appraiser and the principal, ready to prove himself. The appraiser reassures Kazuya, explaining the principal merely wants to motivate the new students. The principal smirks, anticipating the start of the demonstration. The appraiser, however, sees this as a perfect opportunity to verify his own skill sheet. With a determined cry, Kazuya prepares to make his move. He lunges forward, his body wreathed in a dark, powerful aura. Mr. Ujihara can only stare, completely taken aback by the sudden burst of energy. A shockwave ripples through the audience, who wonder what just happened. The principal bursts into laughter, impressed by Kazuya's powerful swing. He declares that as of tomorrow, Kazuya will be a school-wide celebrity. Turning to the appraiser, the principal apologizes, noting the other freshmen seem inexperienced by comparison. But Mr. Ujihara's serious tone stops him cold, leaving the principal utterly bewildered. The appraiser calmly reveals the skill is bash, and it's already at level 2. The principal's face contorts in disbelief, unable to process that this kid has a skill at all. The other students are just as shocked, murmuring that he was in elementary school just a few months ago. They can't believe that a freshman could possibly have mastered a skill. But Kazuya isn't finished, turning his attention back to the appraiser. He unleashes another ability, casting a glowing spell directly at Mr. Ujihara. The appraiser is stunned to realize Kazuya just used a high-level heal skill on him. Kazuya smiles, informing the dumbfounded principal that there's more where that came from. The principal finally snaps, yelling that kids should just listen to their teachers. But Kazuya unleashes another powerful blast, shattering the stage behind them in a show of force. The appraiser recognizes it as buff magic, his professional composure completely shattered. The principal loses his mind, questioning just how many skills this freshman possesses. Kazuya lets out a quiet breath, his point now thoroughly made. But a new figure steps forward, demanding to know just who Kazuya is. The audience is in an uproar, realizing he has bash, heal, and now buff magic. The mysterious student watches him with intense curiosity, wondering about his identity. The principal quickly steps in, asking Kazuya to accompany them to another room. Later, the mysterious student casually eats as Kazuya looks on. He pours them some tea, admitting that he is genuinely astonished by the display. The principal agrees, still reeling from the fact that Kazuya has already acquired 3 skills. The mysterious student thanks Karen for her help, but she humbly brushes it off. A teacher explains that the principal is busy dealing with the other parents after the commotion. Karen senses something is wrong, but the student hesitates to explain the full situation. It turns out the other parents are demanding to speak with Kazuya's guardians. They're desperate to learn the secret behind his son's incredible power and training methods. The mysterious student then reveals he took the liberty of examining Kazuya's skill sheet, and what he found leaves Karen utterly speechless. Kazuya's bash skill is already at level 10. His father is confused, recalling the appraiser's earlier assessment of level 2. The student explains that the skills level was restricted by the weapon he was using. Since Kazuya's mace proficiency is at level 10, he can unleash the skill's true power. Kazuya brings up something the principal mentioned during the ceremony. He's referring to the rule that allows skilled students to opt out of attending the academy. The mysterious student listens intently as Kazuya comes to a decision. With a look of pure resolve, Kazuya declares he won't be attending school. He explains to his mother that he needs to get stronger, and he needs to do it fast. The mysterious student can only stare, taken aback by the boy's conviction. Kazuya clenches his fist, determined to become powerful enough to face any monster alone. Karen watches with concern, whispering his name. But the student offers a word of caution, reminding him that no one gets strong by themselves. He praises Kazuya's work ethic, but insists that he's still just a kid with a lot to learn. The student urges Kazuya to attend school and meet all sorts of different people. He assures him that it's a place where he can grow even stronger. The student then turns to Kazuya's parents, telling them they'll handle things from here. He says a final goodbye, hoping to see Kazuya at school soon. His mother promises they'll have a serious talk with his father once they get home. With the meeting concluded, Kazuya begins to walk away, lost in thought. But a familiar voice suddenly calls out his name. It's Karen, who apologizes for the commotion and asks to walk home with him. Kazuya is still flustered, admitting just how surprised he was by everything. Her expression then turns serious as she asks if he's truly planning to skip school. Kazuya admits he's still undecided and needs to talk it over with his parents, but he insists that his main goal is to use his time to get stronger. He explains that the school's curriculum is too slow, especially when he can barely defeat a horned rabbit. The ceremony made him realize just how desperate everyone is to acquire skills, but they lack the resolve to train for 8 hours a day for a month straight. Karen listens, agreeing that it's a feat most people simply can't accomplish. He points out that they spend 3 entire years just to learn a single skill. She knows he's been working incredibly hard, pushing himself beyond normal limits. Her fist clenches as she realizes that kind of dedication is what sets him apart. She apologizes for her sudden intensity, but Kazuya seems to understand her point. Karen waves goodbye, explaining that her home is this way. She turns back with a bright smile, hoping to see Kazuya at school. Kazuya can only stammer in response, still flustered by the encounter. Later that night, his father sits him down for a serious talk. Kazuya defiantly explains that he bought the skill sheet with his own hard-earned money. He asks his father if he finally believes the story about the slimes. His father admits that he still struggles to comprehend how he learned so many skills so quickly. Kazuya simply states that he trained for 8 hours a day for a month, and that's all. The casualness of his son's explanation leaves his father completely stunned. He confesses that he's worried, noting how Kazuya suddenly changed into a completely different person. His father can't wrap his head around it, questioning if the skill sheet is even real. Kazuya fires back, asking if his father is accusing him of faking the document. His father apologizes, admitting that it's all just too much to believe. A dark determination crosses his face as he explains that's precisely why. He needs Kazuya to show him his skills, to prove it with his own eyes. Kazuya looks up, reluctantly agreeing to his father's demand. And so they set out, driving towards a distant, snow-capped mountain. Their car speeds down a winding road. Kicking up dust as they head towards their destination, they pull up to a large facility called Izu Kogen Field, where a guard asks for their certificate. The sign confirms their location, the Izu training field. His father presents his credentials, and the guard confirms his identity before opening the gate. Kazuya asks about the card, and his father reveals it's a graduation certificate from an adventurer school. He explains that to enter a field like this, you need a certified adventurer as an escort. This is why, he explains, amateurs can't just go hunting slimes in the woods alone. Kazuya quietly promises to be more careful as they drive through the gate, but his guilt is quickly replaced by pure excitement as the path opens before them. A vast, fantastical landscape stretches out, looking just like a world from a game. As they drive deeper, the massive leg of a creature dwarfs their vehicle. His father brings the car to a stop, announcing that they've arrived at their destination. His mother explains that she and his father are going to get their gear on. Kazuya can hardly believe a facility like this actually exists. He realizes this is the perfect place to level up so much faster. As he pulls out his own weapon from his bag, his father's voice suddenly asks if he's ready. He turns to see his parents decked out in full plate armor, his mother questioning his simple sword. Kazuya nervously agrees, thinking their gear looks impossible to move in. His father explains that when fighting monsters, one must always be fully equipped. He then reveals that in this world, fighting with guns is the standard. With that, he challenges Kazuya to show him what he can do with just a sword. With a determined look, Kazuya announces that he's ready. His mother offers a final word of caution, her voice filled with worry. Unseen by them, a massive creature watches their every move from the shadows. His mother calls out his name, trying to get his attention. His father begins to lecture him on the proper way to hunt monsters, starting with stealth. He explains the need to erase one's presence and wait for the perfect moment to strike. But Kazuya seems distracted, prompting his father to call his name again. He asks if his son is even paying attention to the lesson. Kazuya suddenly stops in his tracks, sensing something is wrong. He quietly reveals that they've been followed for some time now. He can hear the faint sound of footsteps coming from the darkness ahead. Kazuya calmly notes that there are at least 4 of them. But more than that, he can feel their unmistakable killing intent. A pack of monstrous wolves suddenly emerges from the shadows, snarling with hunger. His father is stunned, recognizing the creatures as warwolves. He recalls fighting them before in school training exercises, and confidently raises his rifle to take aim. But his shots go wide as the beasts move with incredible speed. One of them lunges forward far faster than he ever anticipated. Kazuya looks on grimly, knowing this is nothing like a school simulation. But Kazuya calmly stops his father, telling him not to shoot. His mother screams his name as Kazuya leaps into the fray, declaring that his new goal is to raise his sword proficiency. His eyes burn with an intensity his parents have never seen before. They can only watch in disbelief, wondering how he took one down in a single strike. He turns to the remaining wolves, taunting their sudden hesitation. With his sword held high, he asks if they've lost their nerve. A menacing grin spreads across his face as he challenges the pack to come at him. The wolves finally lunge, and he notes that unlike previous monsters, these attacked on sight. But these creatures are different, and he meets their ferocity with a single sweeping strike. He realizes these creatures see them as nothing more than prey. In this world, it's a simple matter of kill or be killed, a true battle for their very lives. He stands over the fallen beasts, the immediate threat now neutralized. But his senses suddenly tingle, alerting him to a new presence. He turns his attention to the new sound, his sword held at the ready. Suddenly, the earth itself erupts before him. A monstrous plant-like creature, a mandragora, bursts from the ground. It lets out a terrifying roar, its maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. His father screams in terror, telling Kazuya to run for his life. But Kazuya's father can only stare, a bead of sweat rolling down his face. The mandragora lets out a powerful shriek, a sound that seems to shake the very air. Its maw opens wide, revealing rows of terrifying sharp teeth. The creature's cry echoes through the field as the ground begins to tremble. More mandragoras burst from the earth, answering their leader's call for aid. His father screams that they have to get away from here, knowing they can't possibly take on this many monsters at once. But Kazuya ignores him, activating a physical power boost instead. His father can only watch in shock, stunned by his son's incredible speed. Kazuya closes the distance in an instant, his sword ready to strike the first monster. The creature lets out a guttural roar, its fangs bared. Kazuya stands his ground, unfazed by the towering beast before him. With a single powerful slash, he cuts clean through the monster's head. The creature's head thuds to the ground, its life extinguished in an instant. His father can only stare, wondering how Kazuya already knows their weakness. Kazuya leaps into the air, his sword aimed at the next emerging threat. He carves a path through the horde, cutting them down with practiced ease. He knows from his gaming days that the key is to strike them before they fully surface. A confident smirk crosses his face. He figures 2 hits with bash should be enough. He grits his teeth, focusing all his energy for the next assault. His father can only look on in confusion at his son's display. But their attention is stolen by a new, far more massive threat, a monstrous grizzly. His parents panic, questioning why such a powerful beast is so close to the forest's edge. The grizzly lets out a ferocious roar, its eyes locked on its prey. Kazuya realizes with a jolt of fear that his parents are in grave danger. The beast lunges forward, swiping at his father with its massive claws. A cry of pain escapes his father as the attack lands. The sheer force of the blow sends him crashing into a nearby tree. His mother screams Kazuya's name, her voice filled with terror. Kazuya now stands alone, facing the enraged grizzly head-on. The massive grizzly looms over him, its eyes filled with pure malice. It unleashes a devastating swipe, sending Kazuya flying into the air. The sheer force of the blow shakes the ground beneath them. But Kazuya counters mid-air, driving his sword down with incredible force. His parents can only watch, completely unable to believe what they're seeing. The beast lets out a final agonizing roar as the blade finds its mark. Kazuya grits his teeth, pouring every last bit of his strength into the blow. The grizzly thrashes in its death throes, its life fading away. With a final shudder, the colossal monster collapses to the ground. Kazuya slumps down, still reeling from the sudden appearance of such a powerful foe. His mother whispers his name as Kazuya admits he let his guard down for a moment. He winces in pain, casting a quick heal spell on his battered hands. With the immediate danger gone, he turns to his parents, relieved that they're both safe. He offers a bloody smile, asking if he's finally proven how strong he's become. But his question is met with a sudden, frantic movement from his mother. She rushes forward, grabbing him in a desperate, tear-filled hug. Kazuya is completely bewildered by her outburst as she thanks the heavens he's alive. His father can only watch as his mother clings to their son, overwhelmed with relief. Kazuya looks over, seeing the complex, unreadable expression on his father's face. And in that moment, his father's armored hand slowly clenches into a fist. His father's hand rests on his head as he expresses his profound relief. Tears stream down his face, overwhelmed that his son is safe. Kazuya can only stare as his father calls out his name, finally admitting that his son has become incredibly strong. Sometime later, back at the Adventurers Academy, Karen Tanya is seen leading a group of younger students in their training. She practices her own swordsmanship under the watchful eye of an instructor. It's Mr. Ujihara, who confirms that her proficiency is steadily improving. But the appraiser's expression turns serious as he notes a problem. Despite all her training, Karen has yet to acquire a single skill. Her classmates praise her progress, calling her proficiency amazing as expected of the president. But Karen can only look at her own hands, wondering when she'll finally learn a skill. Elsewhere, students gossip about the new freshman who made a scene at the ceremony. Rumors have already spread that he's self-taught and even took down a grizzly. Others note that Kazuya hasn't been to school since, chalking it all up to natural talent. One girl sighs, wishing she had that kind of innate ability. Her friends agree that with that much power, there'd be no need to attend school at all. But Karen overhears them, sharply declaring that they're wrong. She fiercely defends Kazuya, insisting that his strength comes from hard work. He trains harder than anyone, she explains, telling them not to dismiss his effort so easily. The other students immediately tease her, realizing she's flustered because she has a crush on him. They quickly switch sides, cheering that the rumors are true and they're rooting for their president. Karen can only stammer in confusion, completely caught off guard by their support. She wonders to herself what kind of strange rumors are spreading about her and Kazuya. Miles away, Kazuya suddenly looks up as if he heard something. He tells his father he thought he heard his name, but the student just laughs it off, calling him a celebrity. The principal then gets down to business, explaining they've decided on an official policy for Kazuya's future. Kazuya apologizes for the delay in their meeting. His father explains that they were out at the Izu training field the day after the ceremony. The principal's expression turns grim as he confirms that Kazuya was indeed the one who defeated the grizzly. His father explains that he and Kazuya's mother have talked it over, and they've decided to let Kazuya do as he wishes. He admits that until he saw his son fighting with his own eyes, he was still a bit skeptical of his newfound abilities, but he now understands that Kazuya is on a level far beyond their influence. Kazuya looks down, flustered by his father's words. His father continues, explaining it was the first time he'd ever seen his son so passionate about something. He smiles, admitting that while it might be foolish parental pride, it made him incredibly happy. He then ruffles Kazuya's hair, leaving the boy completely flustered. The principal decides this makes things much simpler and calls for something to be brought in. The student presents Kazuya with a document, his expression unreadable. It's a special curriculum plan, compiled by the student council just for him. Kazuya and his father can only stare in disbelief at what's written on the paper. The proposal offers him voluntary attendance for all of his classes, and even more shocking, a letter of recommendation to the Adventurers Guild. His father questions the mention of the guild, but the student seems to have expected this reaction. He explains that despite Kazuya's young age, this is the best path for his future. The principal agrees, stating that no other school in the country can properly nurture his talent. But Kazuya cuts through their debate with a single, decisive answer. He asks if this new path will truly allow him to become even stronger. The student lets out a reluctant sigh, finally giving in. He smiles, telling Kazuya that he can do as he wishes. Kazuya is overjoyed, but his father adds one final condition. He insists that no matter what, Kazuya must be home for dinner every night. It's a promise our boy is more than happy to make. With that settled, the student sets the time for the following Sunday. As for the location of their meeting, it's a place Kazuya has only dreamed of. The Shizuoka Adventurers Guild, bustling with life and opportunity. All around, seasoned warriors share stories and prepare for their next quests. Kazuya's eyes sparkle with wonder. This is the real-life Adventurers Guild. He recalls how in the game this was just a place to pick up quests. Now he's surrounded by adventurers and all kinds of impressive gear. But a confident thought crosses his mind. He has no need for armor. A gentle hand on his shoulder suddenly breaks his concentration. A woman at the counter kindly asks if the young boy is lost. He fumbles for a moment, thinking he dropped something, but she's holding her own papers. Kazuya proudly presents his letter of recommendation, stating his purpose here. His declaration sends a ripple of shock through the entire guild hall. The other adventurers can only stare, refusing to believe a kid could join their ranks. The woman at the counter looks flustered, questioning if there's been some kind of mistake. But the mysterious student from the school steps in, explaining that Kazuya is his guest. He then introduces Kazuya to a man with an eye patch who already knows his name. Kazuya explains that the principal told him all about this place, eager to get started. The man offers a confident grin, introducing himself as Jinai, the guild master. He's heard that Kazuya has already acquired skills. 3 of them, in fact, which is an incredible feat. The news leaves the woman at the counter completely stunned. Kazuya confirms his purpose, stating he's here to take on quests and get stronger. Jinai lets out a laugh, clearly impressed by the boy's unwavering spirit. Kazuya listens intently, his expression unwavering. Jinai explains that with monster attacks on the rise, the guild is desperate for help, and while he's always happy to welcome new talent, he refuses to put a child with a bright future in harm's way. Kazuya quietly objects, insisting that he's not a child. The guildmaster laughs it off, joking that Kazuya has the air of an old man, but his tone turns serious as he mentions an injury on Kazuya's ribs, catching the boy completely off guard. He correctly deduces that it was from the fight with the grizzly. The student from school playfully scolds Jinai, impressed by his sharp perception, but his face hardens as he gives Kazuya a stark reminder. This isn't a game, and death is final. He explains that one must do everything possible to lower the risks before taking on a challenge. A true adventurer, he continues, protects both themselves and their comrades. And in that regard, he tells Kazuya that he is severely lacking, but he waves it off, deciding a lecture isn't the best way to teach him. Instead, he's decided to give Kazuya a test to prove his worth. Kazuya can only repeat the word, unsure of what this entails. The guildmaster explains that if he can complete a quest without any issues, he'll be an official adventurer. Kazuya eagerly accepts the challenge, but Jinai adds one more condition. He's assigning Kazuya a partner, much to our boy's utter confusion. The very idea of teamwork sends a shockwave through his solo player mindset. Jinai introduces his partner, a woman in armor who immediately puts Kazuya in his place. She is Ota Mao, the guild's specialist in dismantling monsters. Ota seems less than thrilled with the assignment, much to Kazuya's dismay. The guildmaster then reveals their mission, to hunt down a cockatrice. The receptionist expresses her concern, but Ota insists she's only there for the aftermath. But Kazuya's eyes are sparkling with excitement, a fact the guildmaster points out. His enthusiasm only seems to confuse Ota, who calls him a weirdo. Jinai begins to explain the nature of their target, a creature with the body of a rooster, but its tail is that of a long, venomous snake. These monsters are incredibly ferocious and can grow up to 3 meters tall. Jinai explains that the test is simple. Take down a single cockatrice. The student from school sees them off, wishing them luck on their quest. After arriving at the hunting grounds, Kazuya prepares his gear, ready for the challenge. He offers a polite thank you, but Ota seems less than impressed with her new partner. She warns him that they're entering Cockatrice territory, giving him one last chance to back out. But Kazuya's resolve is firm. He's not turning back now. Ota continues to berate him, insisting this is no place for a kid in street clothes. She questions his sanity, wondering if he has some kind of death wish. Kazuya finally snaps, telling her that if she's not fighting, she should stay quiet. He insists her only job is to carve up the monster after he's done, leaving her utterly speechless. Ota can only seethe in anger as Kazuya tells her to be quiet. He ignores her completely, having already spotted their targets in the clearing below. It's not just a single cockatrice, but an entire flock of them. Ota begins to explain their plan to lure one of the creatures away, but Kazuya simply leaps off the cliff, much to her utter disbelief. He plummets towards the ground, his eyes burning with intense focus. With a heavy thud, he lands right in the middle of the monster nest. His gaze is sharp, analyzing the creatures surrounding him. He grips his mace, ready to unleash his power. As the monsters close in, he crouches low, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He smashes the first monster with a devastating blow, its eye wide with shock. Without a moment's hesitation, he turns to his next target. He calmly dismisses its lunge as far too slow to be a threat, and with another powerful swing, he takes down a second beast. His eyes burn with a ferocity that borders on madness. From the cliff above, Ota can't believe he's already defeated 2 of them in an instant. She's left to wonder just what kind of monster she's partnered with. But Kazuya is in his element, a grin spreading across his face as he fights. He recalls from his gaming days that the cockatrice has a specific weak point. Its heart is heavily protected by powerful chest muscles, making it a difficult target. He knows the entire fight hinges on whether he can break through to that single point. The creature's tough hide blocks his first attack just as he expected, but if there's no opening, Kazuya will simply make one himself. With a determined glare, he swings his mace with incredible speed, gripping the handle with all the strength he can muster. He unleashes a devastating bash, wreathed in a dark and powerful aura. Ota realizes his knowledge and technique are on par with a high-rank adventurer. He moves with a deadly grace, cutting down the monsters one by one. Back at the guild, a request had come in for support for a 12-year-old kid, but Ota had initially refused, explaining that she was tied up with another matter. Jinai had explained that he'd heard the kid was a prodigy they wanted to recruit. He then showed her a report that caught her completely off guard. It was a newspaper clipping detailing Kazuya's takedown of the massive grizzly. The report confirmed his extraordinary power and the high quality of his monster drops. Jinai explained that since teamwork is vital, he needed Oda to assess the boy's character. Back in the present, she understands her true mission, to see if Kazuya is worthy of the guild. But Kazuya just cheerfully tells her to start carving while he goes to hunt more. Oda can only grip her massive cleaver, still processing his sheer audacity. She approaches the fallen beast, ready to begin her part of the job. She can't help but think his reckless, close-quarters fighting style is pure suicide. She wonders if anyone could possibly keep up with his frantic pace. With a style like that, she concludes he'll never survive in the guild. But she admits she's hardly one to talk about teamwork. For now, she'll just report back to the master, but something stops her. The snake-like tails of the fallen monsters suddenly spring back to life. All around Kazuya, the severed tails of the cockatrices begin to stir. Oda's face pales as she remembers a critical detail about these beasts. Even after the main body is defeated, the venomous tail can still move on its own. She panics, realizing her only weapon is all the way back on the truck. She tries to calm herself, reasoning that the main body is already dead. She tries to calm herself, thinking she just needs to deal with a few snakes. But one of the venomous tails lunges forward, catching her completely off guard. Her face contorts in pure, unadulterated terror. But Kazuya's voice cuts through the panic, shouting a warning for her to get back. He moves in a blur, intercepting the writhing tails before they can reach her. Oda can only stare in utter disbelief at his incredible speed. Kazuya's eyes narrow, his focus now entirely on the remaining threats. With a powerful roar, he raises his sword high above his head. He feels a powerful shockwave course through him, a familiar sensation from his training. A massive blast erupts from his sword, and he realizes he's just acquired the break attack skill. Kazuya is thrilled, realizing his new skill is perfect for taking on entire hordes. He quickly snaps out of it, offering a flustered apology for his outburst. He admits that in his excitement, he completely forgot about the venomous tails. His concern shifts to Ota as he asks if she was injured in the chaos. She's left flustered, realizing the kid risked himself just to save her. But she quickly regains her composure, insisting she could have handled it herself. Kazuya, however, is already looking for his next fight, spotting more monsters nearby. He dashes off with a cheer, promising to bring her a whole new batch to dismantle. Oda can only stare after him, completely at a loss for words. She finally concludes that keeping up with this kid is simply impossible. With a firm grip, Oda begins the arduous task of dismantling the beasts. She works with a practiced efficiency, her focus absolute. Her eyes gleam with a professional intensity, moving with a speed that rivals Kazuya's own in combat. Soon, the fruits of their labor are sorted into massive crates. Oda finishes her work, presenting the neatly organized monster parts. Kazuya is blown away, praising her for dismantling 35 monsters in record time. But she returns the compliment, impressed that he fought them all without any armor. Kazuya, however, is already critiquing his own performance, listing all the ways he needs to improve. He suggests they hunt a few more, but Ota immediately shuts down the idea. She tells him they're heading back, but Kazuya insists he can still fight. Ota points to the shattered remains of his sword, questioning his logic. She knows he's out of mana, but he claims he'll push through on sheer willpower. With a serious tone, she tells him he needs to value his own life more. It's a lesson he must learn if he ever hopes to join the guild. Otherwise, his recklessness will put both himself and his comrades in danger. But Kazuya's resolve is unshaken. His only goal is to become stronger. His eyes burn with a focus that cares for nothing else. Oda simply sighs, brushing off his intensity as a phase as they head back. At the guild, Jinai is ecstatic, learning they brought back 35 cockatrices in perfect condition. Oda tries to quiet the boisterous guild master, while Kazuya peeks out from behind her. Jinai suddenly gets right in his face, calling out Kazuya's name with booming enthusiasm. He declares that Kazuya has passed the test, accepting him as a rank 2 adventurer. Kazuya can only stare back in confusion as the guildmaster officially welcomes him. Jinai then turns to the entire hall, announcing the arrival of their newest member. Oda collapses in exasperation as the other adventurers question the new kid's abilities. Deciding this has nothing to do with her anymore, she simply turns and walks away. Kazuya watches her go, admitting to himself that he also dislikes troublesome situations. But the guildmaster's expression turns thoughtful as he recalls something else. Kazuya's fighting style reminded him of another powerful warrior from his past. Jinai remembers how Kazuya's reckless fighting style was difficult to watch. Meanwhile, Kazuya looks around for Ota, realizing he never had the chance to properly thank her for her help. But he's quickly swarmed by other adventurers, amazed by his solo feat. A woman in ornate armor approaches, identifying him as the promising new rookie. With a confident smile, she offers him a spot in her party. Kazuya seems confused by the term, so she explains it's a group for taking on quests. She points out that they are all rank 2 adventurers, just like him. In fact, she boasts they're among the best in the guild in both skill and earnings. She then adds that they're even faster at dismantling monsters than Oda was. Her party members openly mock Oda, calling her useless in a fight. The man with the eye patch smirks, leaving the choice entirely up to Kazuya. But for Kazuya, this entire situation feels strangely familiar. He remembers how in Versus Online, his rising power only complicated his relationships. He was constantly hounded by annoying players trying to use him for his strength. So, just like back then, he asks the woman if he can see her knife. And just as he suspected, the blade is chipped and poorly maintained. The woman looks on, completely baffled by his strange request. Then, with a sudden burst of strength, Kazuya snaps the blade clean in two. She recoils in shock, questioning his sanity as he stands over the broken weapon. He warns the woman not to look down on him just because he's a kid. He then drags the dull blade across his own arm, questioning how they could ever dismantle a monster with it. He declares that people who don't even maintain their gear have no right to mock Otai. His intensity sends the party running, and Kazuya is relieved they won't be back. But Oda suddenly grabs his bleeding arm, screaming at him for his reckless stunt. She frantically calls for someone to bring potions and bandages. The receptionist rushes over with supplies, realizing he's completely out of mana. Oda pours a healing potion over the wound as Kazuya looks on in surprise. He can only ask why she's helping him after he was so rude. She just yells back that she doesn't know, telling him to be quiet. Her frustration boils over as she tells him that if he dies, it's all for nothing. She screams that his quest for strength will be over, and her words hit Kazuya with the force of a physical blow. Tears stream down her face as she reminds him he'll never see his loved ones again. Kazuya can only offer a flustered apology, completely taken aback by her outburst. Jinai and the receptionist watch from afar, the guildmaster seemingly unfazed by the drama. After things have calmed down, Oda finishes tending to his wound. Kazuya looks at her with a newfound respect, calling out her name. He then asks her with complete sincerity to form a party with him. The sudden request leaves Oda completely and utterly stunned. He tells her with a blush that with her by his side, he feels he can grow much stronger. Oda is completely flustered by his sudden, heartfelt declaration. The two immediately begin to bicker, though others see it as a sign they get along quite well. And so begins another grueling training montage, as Kazuya pushes himself day after day. He swings his weapon with relentless force, his hands raw and calloused from the constant effort. But his body is growing stronger, adapting to the incredible strain. From the doorway, his mother watches him with a concerned expression. She startles him, asking if something good happened before telling him breakfast is ready. He reassures her that he's just following his training plan, but she still worries he's overdoing it. He proudly presents his new adventurer certificate to his parents. His father recognizes the card, amazed that he passed the exam by defeating 35 cockatrices. Kazuya casually mentions his next goal is to increase his mana, leaving them stunned. His father can't believe he's already a rank 2 adventurer, a rank higher than their own. After finishing his meal, he quickly gets up from the table. He cheerfully promises to be back in time for dinner before heading out. His mother smiles, just happy that he seems to be making friends. But his father is completely crushed, feeling like his son has already surpassed him. He laments that he never got to show off his cool dad side, much to his wife's annoyance. The scene then shifts to the front of the Adventurers Academy. Kazuya rushes into a cafe, apologizing for his late arrival. Oda and the guild receptionist are already there, chiding him for being late. They playfully scold him for making his seniors wait, offering him a drink. But Kazuya is overcome with emotion, crying tears of joy at this simple, happy moment. The receptionist gets down to business, thanking him for meeting with them. She then presents him with a briefcase containing 10 million yen for his monster subjugation efforts. They ask if he's been back to the guild, but he explains he's been focused on training this past week. The two then scold him for his reckless stunt back at the guild, telling him never to do it again. Kazuya's expression turns serious as he reveals there's something he wants to discuss. The receptionist asks if he's finally ready to form an official party with Otai. Oda is stunned by his forwardness, but Kazuya apologizes for his impulsive request. He looks at her with complete sincerity, asking her once more to form a party with him. Oda can only stammer out an agreement, completely flustered by his earnest plea. But she quickly adds that there's one condition he must agree to. She makes him promise that no matter what happens, they will both survive. Kazuya looks her in the eye and readily accepts her terms. The receptionist then presents him with an item to help ensure their safety. It's a return stone, a magical artifact that can teleport him back to the guild in an emergency. Kazuya is amazed, recognizing it as a teleport item straight out of Verses Online. She places it in his hand, urging him to never be without this final lifeline. The receptionist can hardly contain her joy at their new partnership. With their party now official, Kazuya and Ota formally introduce themselves. The receptionist watches happily as Kazuya suggests they use first names. Ota is left completely flustered by the sudden familiarity. She then offers to take Kazuya somewhere special to celebrate. They make their way through the city to their destination. Kazuya's eyes light up with pure excitement at the sight before him. Ota has brought him to the best weapon and armor shop in the entire region. He excitedly points out every weapon, impressing Ota with his vast knowledge. The shopkeeper explains that Ota brought him here, knowing he'd need a replacement for his broken sword. The shopkeeper, a mountain of a man, greets Ota warmly. He introduces himself as Sugiyama, explaining that Ota has told him all about Kazuya. As Ota asks him to find a weapon for our boy, Kazuya can barely contain his excitement. But the master blacksmith first asks to see Kazuya's hands. He dons a full helmet, his expression turning serious. After a firm handshake, he declares that Kazuya is quite the warrior. He's so impressed that he immediately ushers Kazuya into a private gallery to see his best work. Sugiyama explains that he could tell from Kazuya's calloused hands that he's a true melee fighter. He then presents a special weapon, forged from high-quality dragon bone. It's a unique blade that excels in both offense and defense, and even boasts magic resistance. Kazuya is amazed by the weapon's incredible lightness, a detail the blacksmith prides himself on. But his excitement fades when he hears the staggering price of 2 million yen. He turns away, his eyes landing on a barrel filled with other, less refined weapons. His attention is immediately captured by a large, dark club, which Sugiyama calls the Sugiyama Deluxe. The blacksmith explains that it's a magic staff, one that will take a long time to master. But Kazuya has already made up his mind, declaring that this is the one he wants. Sugiyama tries to explain that the weapon is meant for mages, not melee fighters. Kazuya ignores him, testing the weight of the mithril staff with a powerful swing. He puts his entire body into the motion, kicking up dust with the force of the blow. As he grips the handle, he channels his enhancement magic, feeling the mithril respond to his power. He realizes the staff will make his buff and heal spells far more efficient, and by raising his staff proficiency, he can finally learn proper magic. With such a rare and powerful weapon before him, there's no way he'd choose anything else. The blacksmith is overjoyed, admitting it's his greatest creation in 40 years of work. He explains that no mage ever wanted it, finding it too heavy in an age of guns. But Kazuya's eyes light up, realizing this is his chance. Sugiyama declares that since it's his masterpiece, he must test the boy, to see if Kazuya is truly worthy of wielding it. Kazuya can only ask what he means by a test as the blacksmith draws his own weapon. Sugiyama tells him to get ready, intending to see his capabilities firsthand. Ota panics, begging the blacksmith not to go too hard on Kazuya, but Kazuya calmly reassures her, telling her not to worry. He explains that he's merely taking a stance, his eyes burning with focus. The blacksmith is impressed by the boy's fierce expression. He declares that Kazuya looks just like a true adventurer should. But their test is interrupted by an armored man demanding the shopkeeper's attention. He's furious that a weapon shop doesn't carry any guns. The man accuses the shopkeeper of looking down on adventurers. But before he can finish his rant, he's sent flying across the room. Sugiyama holds him by the collar, declaring that his reliance on guns has made him a coward. The angry adventurer is tossed out as Sugiyama explains how fighting has changed. More and more, adventurers have abandoned melee weapons in favor of guns. It's a logical choice, allowing them to fight safely from a distance. But this safety has also led to complacency, with many slacking on their training. They've lost the desire to truly grow stronger, and that was something the old blacksmith simply could not accept. He watched as adventurers flocked to the new, easier weapons. But to keep his business afloat, he had no choice but to adapt. He found himself surrounded by a new generation of gun-wielding warriors, a generation that had forgotten the true meaning of strength. He'd made excuses, telling himself that times had simply changed. But then he saw Kazuya's unbridled passion, a boy who still embodied the old ways of a true warrior. And in that moment, the old blacksmith found a reason to hope again. He looks at Kazuya with a newfound intensity, asking if our boy truly understands the grueling path he's chosen. He points out that with guns, Kazuya could get stronger far more easily. But Kazuya's grip on the staff only tightens as he refuses. That's not the kind of strength he's interested in becoming. The blacksmith grins, challenging Kazuya to show him the path he has chosen. Kazuya admits he doesn't fully understand the blacksmith's intentions, but he knows he can't use the staff for this particular test. There's only one path he's truly committed to walking. The blacksmith is confused, wondering why the boy just disarmed himself. He charges forward anyway, swinging his massive axe to test Kazuya's resolve. Kazuya's eyes widen, his focus absolute in the face of the attack. The blacksmith stops dead in his tracks, completely stunned by what he feels. He's overwhelmed by the sheer, palpable killing intent radiating from the boy. A monstrous aura erupts around Kazuya, making Sugiyama question if he's even human. But Kazuya just smiles, explaining that he was simply testing the blacksmith in return. The blacksmith relents, offering to sell Kazuya the Sugiyama Deluxe. But he adds one condition: the boy must bring it back for regular maintenance. Kazuya accepts the terms without a moment of hesitation. He makes a solemn vow to the blacksmith that he will become stronger. Sugiyama is impressed, recognizing the boy's incredible willpower and tenacity. Oda rushes over, demanding to know what the blacksmith was doing to the kid. He explains that Kazuya's gaze was so intense, it felt like he was about to be killed. He muses that only the foolish or the truly desperate would dare to challenge him. The blacksmith then turns to Oda, asking if she can truly keep up with a boy like that. But she just scoffs, confidently declaring that Kazuya is nothing more than a normal brat. She admits that Kazuya's intensity did scare her at first, much to the blacksmith's surprise. But Sugiyama insists she doesn't understand just how special the boy truly is. Oda just drags Kazuya away, scolding him for being so selfish. He seems to take her words to heart, listening intently. But their bickering dynamic is already firmly in place. The old blacksmith watches them go, thinking they might just make a good team after all. Later, Kazuya reflects on how surprised Sugiyama was when he paid for the weapon in cash. The powerful staff ended up costing him the entire 10 million yen he had just earned. But as he carries his new prize, he knows it was worth every penny. Oda smiles, happy that he's found a weapon he's truly passionate about. Kazuya then presents Ota with a gift, a mithril carving knife. He explains that the blacksmith threw it in as a thank you for forming a party. Oda insists she's only in it for the money, and for him keeping those other adventurers away. But she hesitates for a moment, before offering a quiet, flustered thank you. Kazuya looks back, equally flustered by the moment. As they walk away, he insists that he's the one who should be thanking her. Oda then asks if they'll be going hunting together tomorrow. But Kazuya apologizes, explaining he already has plans, much to her surprise. He reveals that he thinks it's finally time for him to show up at school. Oda looks at her phone, questioning his sudden interest in school. He shows her an ad for a swordsman tournament for first-year students. She recognizes the famous newcomer event, and Kazuya immediately declares he wants to enter. Oda playfully teases him about being a delinquent, but agrees to let him go. She offers a confident smile, wishing him luck in the tournament. But Kazuya's face contorts in panic as he realizes today is the last day to register. He rushes off in a frenzy, leaving Oda to sigh at his childish antics. Meanwhile, at the academy, Mr. Ujihara announces an upcoming tournament for the students. He explains that while the details are secret, a strong performance will earn them a recommendation for the official prefecture tournament. The news sends a wave of excitement through the classroom. One student, Naruko, declares with absolute certainty that he's going to win. His friend Shigeru tells him to calm down, calling him a child. Another girl, Nanase, is just as confident, sure that she'll make it far. Mr. Ujihara tempers their enthusiasm with a word of caution. He explains that students from higher grades can also participate, and the freshmen should just focus on not getting hurt. In fact, every year, a large number of first-year students are sent to the hospital, but he adds that it is possible for them to defeat their upperclassmen. He then introduces Karen Tanya, who did just that last year, and is here to offer some encouragement. She takes the stage, formally introducing herself as the student council president. She offers a warm smile, her presence commanding the attention of the entire room. One of the students, Naruko, erupts with excitement, asking how she managed to win. She explains that last year's competition involved monster subjugation, and she defeated a single Cockatrice in 2 hours. The other students murmur amongst themselves, noting that Cockatrices are only E or D rank monsters. But Shigeru, the masked student, is still deeply impressed by her accomplishment. Karen admits that while this year's subject is unknown, she still plans to give it her all. She hopes they can all work together, inspiring each other to become stronger. Mr. Ujihara quietly warns her not to provoke the freshmen too much with her speech. But another student raises a hand, his fingers covered in rings. He wonders aloud what they should do if the super-powerful school-skipping cheater decides to show up. The student with the visor looks on as Karen is addressed by the boy with the rings. Another student with two-toned hair agrees that Kazuya is powerful, but seems to have a reservation. Karen fires back, insisting it's rude to call him a cheater without knowing how hard he's worked. The two-toned student scoffs, pointing out that Kazuya had skills before he even enrolled. Someone else chimes in with the rumor that he even took down a grizzly. The student leans back, wondering how anyone can get excited for the tournament with a monster like that around. The boy with the rings then turns on Karen, suggesting even she can't compare to Kazuya. The two-toned student gets up to leave, announcing he's going to sign up now that the bell has rung. The boy with the rings seems confused, asking who that was, while his friend identifies him as their classmate. Karen watches them go, understanding their frustration and wondering what she would do in their position. Karen stands alone on a school walkway, lost in her thoughts. She reflects on Kazuya's power, admitting she can't even begin to comprehend his strength. But it's his sheer tenacity that truly stands out, a drive that borders on insanity. A first-year student suddenly approaches, introducing himself as Mano Tsuyoshi. He's completely flustered, explaining that he enrolled just because he admires her so much. After he calms down, Karen asks what he wanted to discuss with her. He reminds her of the entrance ceremony, when the principal was about to call on him for the skill appraisal. And the one who stepped up in his place, saving him from the ordeal, was Kazuya. Mano admits he's been worried, since Kazuya hasn't shown up to school since that day. Karen seems a bit surprised, wondering why he's asking her about Kazuya's well-being. He then bluntly asks if she and Kazuya are actually dating. The question sends Karen into a complete panic, insisting they're not together. She explains they're just friends and she doesn't even have his number. But their conversation is interrupted by another student who's heard the same rumor. He then angrily declares that she's supposed to be his girlfriend. Karen recognizes the newcomer as Sasahara, another third-year student. She explains that after she rescued him once, he got the wrong idea about their relationship. Sasahara's eyes then land on Mano, a look of realization dawning on his face. Mano frantically tries to explain that he's not the one she's rumored to be with. But Sasahara's face twists in rage, seeing him as an unforgivable rival. Sasahara lunges forward with his practice sword, screaming in a jealous rage. Mano can only cry out in terror as the attack closes in. But Karen intercepts the blow, her own sword blocking the strike. Sasahara is thrown to the ground, looking up in confusion at his supposed girlfriend. Her expression is cold as she warns him that he's caught her in a very bad mood. She raises her sword, preparing to unleash her own frustration. With a chilling glare, she declares that she won't be holding back. She brings the wooden blade down with a powerful, decisive strike. Sasahara can only cry out as the blow connects. Karen stands over him, her sword resting on her shoulder, not yet finished with her lecture. She coldly reminds him to use the proper honorifics when speaking her name. Sasahara is left completely dazed on the ground as Mano looks on. The first-year student can't help but gush, completely amazed by her display of strength. Karen gets flustered by his praise, trying to downplay her own intensity. But their conversation is cut short by the sound of an approaching vehicle. A scooter screeches to a halt, carrying the two-toned student and a blonde woman. The woman scolds him for not checking the schedule, while he offers a flustered apology. She frantically tells him he only has 5 minutes left to register for the tournament. He then spots Karen, calling out her name and leaving her completely confused. She stares back, trying to place the familiar face of her fellow student. The blonde woman asks the student if he was with Ota, leaving him flustered. She then greets Karen, who stands over the defeated Sasahara. Meanwhile, Kazuya arrives at the registration desk just in the nick of time. A screen confirms that he is now officially entered into the competition. He thanks Karen for her help, who is just relieved they made it. Karen asks about the two-toned student's friend, but he insists he'll take care of the dazed woman. Karen then turns back to Kazuya, surprised that he decided to compete. She admits she was sure he had no interest in school activities at all. Kazuya simply smiles, explaining that's not entirely true. He reveals that he's starting to feel the limits of training all by himself. His fist clenches with a newfound sense of purpose. He believes that participating in the tournament is the next logical step to becoming even stronger. He's also curious to see how he stacks up against others his own age. It's a chance to finally gauge his own power. But the two-toned student suddenly interrupts, asking Karen how she knows Ota. The question leaves both Kazuya and Karen completely baffled. He asks if it's true that she and Kazuya have formed a party together. Kazuya wonders if she's upset, but she flatly denies it, calling it a coincidence. He then reveals that his own older sister used to be in a party with Ota. He explains that his sister was Ota's partner before she left for university. Kazuya learns their party was actually quite famous in its day. Now his sister travels the country, studying and fighting monsters on her own. but with the recent surge in monster activity, he worries she's putting her life on the line. The blonde woman then chimes in, explaining that Oda can't help but look after reckless people like Kazuya. The two-tone student grabs Kazuya, telling him to leave his unregistered staff with them for now. Kazuya seems genuinely confused by the accusation, wondering if he's really that reckless. The blonde woman then gives him a friendly warning, telling him not to make Ota cry. Kazuya can only stammer out an agreement, insisting he had no intention of doing so. With that settled, she cheerfully offers to give him a tour of the school, though Kazuya was hoping to train. Kazuya can only look on, completely exhausted by her overwhelming energy. Elsewhere, a pair of students walk with a determined, almost nervous energy. They make their way up a set of stairs, their target now in sight. The two confirm to an unseen figure that their target has indeed arrived. The student with two-toned hair, Kageyama, looks up from his game. A confident, almost arrogant smirk spreads across his face. His friends confirm that Kazuya has officially signed up for the competition. They immediately panic, giving up any hope of actually winning the tournament. One of them even worries that Kazuya is strong enough to send them to the hospital. But Kageyama grabs him by the collar, his expression turning cold and serious. He asks his friend what the most important thing is when facing a powerful boss. The boy stammers out a guess, but Kageyama insists it's something far more basic. With a chilling intensity, he reveals the answer is information, knowing an opponent's every move. He declares their new strategy is to investigate everything about Kazuya before they even think about fighting. Elsewhere, the blonde woman leads Kazuya to the school's gymnasium. She explains that this massive arena is where the tournament will take place. She notes that with the competition starting tomorrow, everyone seems to be on edge, and because of that, it seems like none of the other students can properly concentrate. She points out that they all look exhausted, and worse, they don't seem to be enjoying themselves at all. Her words seem to strike a chord with Kazuya, who looks on with a thoughtful expression. One of the students, Naruko, is still full of energy, demanding another 100 balls. But his friend Shiger is completely spent, refusing to help him any longer. Naruko ignores him, winding up for another powerful throw. He unleashes the ball with a burst of energy, sending it flying across the gym. He seems to be complaining that their practice session isn't over yet. But Shiger offers a new challenge, warning that this time he'll be aiming to win. The threat only excites Naruko, who grins with anticipation. From the doorway, Kazuya and the blonde woman observe the intense practice. But Kazuya's mind is already on a real battlefield, picturing a true fight. His guide points out a critical moment, just as Kazuya's focus sharpens. Naruko lets out a powerful cry, putting his all into the throw. But Kazuya's gaze sharpens, seeing a critical opening in his form. Suddenly, the ball is intercepted with a sharp thud. From the stands, Kageyama analyzes the practice session on his tablet. He realizes that attacking from a blind spot is completely useless against Naruko. Kazuya looks up, demanding to know the identity of the newcomer. Naruko can only stare in disbelief, completely caught off guard. An armored figure stands behind him, having caught the ball with ease. Kazuya turns his head, his expression unreadable as he sizes up the warrior. The figure suddenly attacks, forcing Kazuya to dodge a swift downward strike. Kageyama smirks from the stands, noting that a 2-on-1 fight seems easy for Kazuya. Naruko confirms that our boy is just as comfortable fighting people as he is monsters. The blonde woman is stunned, questioning what is even happening. Karen can only call out Kazuya's name in surprise, but Kazuya just offers a confident grin, completely unfazed by the challenge. Kageyama watches intently, ready to find a way to defeat him. One of the armored students accuses Kazuya of being a cheater. Karen immediately steps between them, demanding that they stop. The armored student reminds her that duels are forbidden without the school's permission. Naruko points out that as the student council president, she should know that better than anyone. But Kazuya calmly tells Karen that he'll be fine, explaining with a grin that he doesn't mind the odds as long as he gets to fight. The other students can only watch, intimidated by his sheer confidence. But the armored warrior refuses to be looked down on and lunges forward. Kazuya moves in a blur, easily sidestepping the clumsy attack. He counters not with a weapon, but with his own bare hands. A single powerful blow sends the armored student flying backward. With a wild grin, Kazuya challenges the next person to come at him. Naruko can only stare in absolute terror, completely shaken by the display. Kazuya, however, is simply following his plan to master the fist, a high-rank skill he's been working towards all along. He explains that he always wanted to use his fists first, valuing their versatility. But no matter how many other skill proficiencies he maxed out through training, the fist proficiency he truly desired never appeared on his skill sheet. After some research, he's come to a single logical conclusion. His own personal level is simply not high enough to unlock the skill. So if fighting monsters isn't enough, he'll level up by fighting people instead. And that is the true reason he decided to enter the school tournament. Back in the present, he continues to effortlessly dodge the armored student's attacks. The student scoffs, thinking Kazuya is simply running away, but his taunt is cut short by a look of pure, unadulterated shock. The armored student reels back, shocked by the sheer power of a bare fist. Kazuya unleashes a flurry of blows, calmly observing his opponent's every move. He easily dodges a downward swing, his senses tracking every single motion. He knows that against monsters and humans alike, observation is the key to victory. The armored student charges forward again, refusing to back down. From the sidelines, Kageyama realizes that Kazuya has absolutely no fear of getting hurt. In fact, a wild grin spreads across Kazuya's face. He's enjoying this. He holds up his battered hand, explaining that he broke his own bones on the armor, a sign that his fists are not yet true weapons. But with a fiery gaze, he declares that's exactly what he came here to do. The armored student grits his teeth, vowing to make this fight last. From the stands, Kageyama furiously types, analyzing Kazuya's every move. He lets out a laugh, realizing Kazuya's power is far beyond his initial assessment. He now sees Kazuya as a worthy opponent, a target he must overcome. Shigeru can only watch in awe, completely stunned by the display. His eyes widen, taking in the sheer difference in their power levels. A heavy sigh escapes Naruko as his confidence completely shatters. Tears stream down his face as he struggles to hold back his frustration. Shigeru tries to comfort him, promising that he too will grow stronger one day, but the armored student can only wonder what kind of monster he's truly facing. The armored student struggles to keep up, admitting Kazuya's attacks are too fast and strong. He can't comprehend how Kazuya is fighting barehanded and taunts him to attack. But Kazuya just smirks, declaring he's bored of this little chase. The insult clearly hits its mark, enraging his opponent. He tells Kazuya to be quiet, charging forward in a blind fury. A wild grin spreads across Kazuya's face. This is exactly what he wanted. The student stomps his foot, his frustration now boiling over. Kazuya notes that unlike monsters, humans are susceptible to verbal taunts. But the armored student notices Kazuya's gaze keeps drifting away from the fight. With a knowing smirk, Kazuya asks if he's looking for the person pulling the strings. He asks if the student in the stands is the one who sent him. The armored student's shocked expression is all the confirmation he needs. Enraged at being found out, his opponent lunges forward with a wild swing. But Kazuya's focus has already shifted. He now knows who his real opponent is. He looks up towards the stands, right at the mastermind of this little test. Kageyama notes with a cool expression that Kazuya is looking right at him. With a fiery gaze, Kazuya tells him to watch closely. Preparing to unleash his current full power in a single devastating blow, the punch connects with incredible force, sending the armored student flying. The armored student is sent hurtling across the gym floor. He crashes into the wall, defeated, as Kageyama watches from above. Kageyama admits Kazuya is impressive, but still calls him a cheater. With a sinister grin, he vows to expose Kazuya in tomorrow's tournament. Kazuya calmly accepts the challenge, telling him he looks forward to it. The blonde woman rushes to her fallen comrade, checking if he's all right. Naruko clenches his fist, his spirit completely crushed by the display. He wonders if he even has a chance of ever defeating someone like Kazuya. But Kazuya wraps his battered hand, knowing he absolutely cannot lose. The blonde woman's eyes burn with determination, vowing to win and catch up to her sister. The day of the grand competition has finally arrived. The school grounds are bustling with food stalls and excited spectators. An announcement declares that the fierce battles between students are about to begin. Kazuya makes his way through the crowd, taking in the scene. An announcer hypes up the crowd for the Shizuoka Prefecture Middle School Swordsman competition. As he introduces himself, Kazuya and the armored student Mano walk past. Mano asks Kazuya if something is wrong, noticing his quiet demeanor. Kazuya admits that he's just not good with this kind of atmosphere. Mano reminds him that the welcoming tournament is part of the day's events. Another student notes that the results will have a huge impact on their school lives. Kazuya observes the other students, noting their impressive sets of armor. Mano then asks with concern if the weapon on his back is all he brought. Kazuya casually confirms that it is, much to his friend's surprise. Mano can't help but worry about Kazuya's chances without any proper gear. A voice cuts through the crowd as Karen takes the stage, welcoming everyone to the tournament. Kazuya watches from the audience, surprised to see her in full battle armor. She grips the microphone, vowing that as last year's champion, she will absolutely win this year's tournament as well. The blonde woman looks on, taken aback by Karen's sudden declaration. The announcer quickly steps in, reminding her that this is supposed to be a welcoming event. Other students discuss Karen's intense demeanor, noting how different she seemed today. Mano observes Kazuya, acknowledging the presence of the formidable first-year student. Kazuya expresses his annoyance at the tense atmosphere, while Mano worries about the lingering misunderstanding. The eccentric announcer prepares to reveal the tournament details, pulling back a grand curtain. He dramatically announces that the rules for this year's competition are about to be revealed. The announcer explains the simple tournament format: 2 blocks, duels, and a final showdown between the block winners. A screen displays the rules, confirming that all weapons except firearms are permitted. The announcer clarifies the victory conditions: knocking out an opponent or forcing their surrender. Nanis discovers she's in the same block as Karen, expressing dismay at facing the president so early. Nanis collapses in despair, realizing the tough road ahead in the tournament. Shigeru confirms that he's in Block B just as they expected, but Naruko's attention is fixed on Kazuya, who has somehow been placed in the far more difficult Block A. Mano points out that Kazuya is the only first year in a block full of third years. Another student complains to the teacher, questioning if the bracket is rigged, but the principal just laughs it off, revealing it was a request from the PTA. A woman with glasses offers a smug, knowing smile. She then tells Kageyama that everything is perfectly set for him to win. A flamboyant third-year student taunts Karen, explaining that Block A is full of seasoned veterans. He declares with a smirk that her time in the spotlight is officially over. The girl gets angry, thinking he is way too confident. The protagonist looks confused, not understanding the threat. He decides to act fast without wasting any more time. He steps forward, preparing to do something unexpected. He calmly asks to borrow the microphone from a shocked man. His action causes shock and confusion among everyone nearby. He proposes setting a special rule for the match. He declares he will fight everyone here alone. The girl's eyes sharpen, sensing his serious determination. The protagonist asks the principal, awaiting the final decision. The flamboyant student walks away, leaving his defeated opponent in the dust. He turns back with a wild grin, questioning the very idea of a challenge. The principal can only stare, completely baffled by the student's audacity. Shigeru looks down, his expression hidden but his disappointment clear. Naruko clings to a pillar, his spirit completely crushed as he tries to hold back tears. Kageyama simply watches on, thinking the third year is completely unhinged. Karen's eyes widen, unable to believe the scene unfolding before her. But then, a new voice cuts through the tension as Kazuya takes the microphone. He looks out at the crowd, realizing that every single person here is desperate to learn new skills. Shigeru and Naruko can only watch, their own confidence now shaken to the core. Kageyama watches from the stands, a smug expression on his face. 2 armored students, likely Kageyama's allies, look on with anticipation. Kazuya, holding the microphone, declares with fierce eyes that he will teach. He offers to reveal the secret of acquiring a skill to whoever can defeat him. The principal and Mr. Ujihara look stunned, as the principal questions if skills are truly everything. In the crowd, other students dismiss Kazuya's offer, finding it arrogant. Kageyama grins, believing Kazuya is simply mocking them all. The flamboyant third-year student steps forward, accepting the challenge and vowing to teach Kazuya the school's strictness. Kazuya meets his gaze with a confident, challenging smirk. The announcer declares a special match against the promising first year, as excitement fills the arena. The announcer introduces the opposing force, a team of third years led by Sasahara. From the stands, Kageyama calls the third year an idiot, while his companion notes how much attention Kazuya is drawing. Kazuya, however, remains completely focused on the challenge ahead. The blonde woman observes that not everyone joined the fight, but Kageyama points out that more than half the students still took the bait. And now, a horde of nearly 50 armored students stands ready to face him. Kageyama wonders aloud what kind of parents could raise such a battle-crazed maniac, completely unaware they're sitting right behind him. Karen, however, watches with a quiet confidence, certain that Kazuya will be fine. But Kazuya grips his staff, thinking to himself that she's mistaken, because it's his opponents he's actually worried about. Kageyama can only sigh, hoping Kazuya doesn't go completely overboard. Sasahara taunts Kazuya, asking if he's scared to face such overwhelming odds. But Kazuya admits he's actually disappointed that so few students stepped up to the challenge. The blonde woman questions the absurd rules, while Karen worries about this so-called welcoming event. Other students recall their own first year, admitting the tournament is more of a hazing ritual. The principal reveals the school's true intention: to use this event to weed out any troublemakers. The woman with glasses then clears her throat, preparing to address the crowd. She introduces herself as Sasahara, the president of the PTA and the one running the tournament. Down below, her son cheers her on, revealing the source of the rigged bracket. The PTA president claims her goal is to create a safe environment for all the contestants. And that's why, she explains, they've opted for a one-on-one tournament this year. The girl notes many problematic people appear in the tournament. A cameraman is stopped and accused of dishonest conduct. The protagonist coldly glares at those disrespecting the school. The school declares order and tradition above everything else. A hammer slams down, enforcing the harsh decision. He looks down on the speech, calling it hypocritical and vile. He realizes this world follows the same rules as games. He decides to risk his life to grow stronger. He grips his weapon, preparing for a brutal clash. He charges into battle, striking multiple enemies at once. The first student falls, completely overwhelmed by the initial assault. But Kazuya's gaze is already locked onto his next target. His eyes burn with an almost frightening intensity. He meets the next challenger head-on, his staff a blur of motion. He pins his opponent's sword to the ground with a single stomp, leaving the armored student completely defenseless. The third year can only stare in disbelief at the sheer speed. Kazuya moves through the crowd like a force of nature, sending armored bodies flying with every swing of his staff. He uses one fallen opponent as a springboard to his next target. He stands amidst the fallen, calmly noting he's taken down 10 with 40 more to go. The other third years panic, realizing Sasahara completely misled them about Kazuya's power. They recall his claims that Kazuya was weak and only got in through connections. Sasahara grits his teeth, wondering why our boy has suddenly stopped his assault. Kazuya meets his gaze, declaring that if they won't attack, then he'll come to them. He leaps forward with incredible speed, closing the distance in an instant. Kazuya gets right in Sasahara's face, his expression cold and determined. The flamboyant student screams in terror, desperately calling for his shield. An armored student intercepts the attack, blocking Kazuya with a massive shield. Sasahara taunts him from behind the barrier, confident that Kazuya can't break through. Kazuya calmly explains that Sasahara wouldn't be able to withstand a single one of his strikes. The third year's confidence shatters, a curse escaping his lips. His allies begin to retreat, realizing they've been completely outmatched. More students flee the arena, making excuses about exams and injuries. Sasahara can only watch in disbelief as his entire army abandons him. Soon he's left completely alone on the battlefield with Kazuya. He looks up in terror as our boy slowly approaches. Karen then steps forward, asking if he's ready for a proper duel. But Kazuya interjects, formally accepting the one-on-one challenge himself. He stands over the cowering Sasahara, asking if he's even going to attack. Sasahara can only stammer, completely frozen in fear. Kazuya realizes with disappointment that his opponent has already dropped his weapons, concluding there's no point in even attending a school this week. But from the stands, Kageyama suddenly shouts a command. Kazuya's eyes widen as he senses a new threat. An attack slams into him from the side, catching him completely off guard. Sasahara looks up, a smug expression replacing his earlier terror. Kazuya turns his head, his gaze now fixed on his real opponents. Two more armored students charge in, revealing the true nature of the trap. He's been ambushed, and the real fight is only just beginning. Kazuya turns to his new opponents, asking who they are. The mastermind smirks, realizing he hasn't properly introduced himself. He reveals his name is Kageyama, the one who will finally defeat him, and he tells Kazuya to remember it, calling him a cheater. But Kazuya just looks back at the group, feigning ignorance. Kageyama taunts him for skipping school, saying of course he wouldn't know them. A female student with a shield explains that they are all first years, just like him. But Kageyama clarifies that unlike Kazuya, every single one of them hates him. Naruko immediately panics, insisting that he doesn't actually hate Kazuya. Shiger can only look on as his friend breaks ranks. The enemies decide eliminating him is now their top priority. The allies thank him, viewing the situation as a golden opportunity. He charges in without a plan, provoking the enemy's ridicule. The opponent is shocked by the sudden attack. The allies tell him to step back and leave it to them. The first years unite, declaring they will defeat him together. He calmly analyzes the kick, acknowledging its strength. The girl smiles, finding the fight unexpectedly enjoyable. He keeps fighting, feeling he has not had enough yet. He grins, asking them to last longer than the third years. The enemy orders an attack, mocking the hero's overconfidence. The squad attacks in sync, surrounding the hero from all sides. The hero notices their coordination and evaluates the danger. He calmly blocks the strike, unimpressed by the attack. He admits the enemies are weaker than the third years. An enemy counterattacks, landing a powerful close-range blow. The hero realizes the enemy's armor is heavily reinforced. He is slowly pushed into a corner by sheer numbers. The hero prepares for a sudden breakthrough. He delivers a powerful strike, breaking their formation. Shigeru lies defeated on the ground as Kageyama tells him his defenses are useless. He then calls his fallen classmate an idiot for even trying. But as Kageyama pins him down, a new attack begins. A rain of projectiles descends from above, a trap Kageyama calls the Hell Zone. Kazuya's eyes narrow, taking in the volley of throwing weapons. He swings his staff with incredible speed, deflecting every single projectile with practiced ease. He stands completely unharmed amidst the fallen weapons. The other students can only stare, calling him a monster for blocking the entire barrage. Naruko, however, is eager for his turn, but Kageyama quickly silences him. Naruko can only cry out in frustration, offended at being called an idiot. But Kageyama calmly tells him to wait, assuring him his turn will come. Kazuya now faces two new armored opponents, who attack in a coordinated sweep. He can't help but be impressed by their flawless teamwork. They're perfectly aware of each other's movements, knowing exactly what to do next. It feels less like fighting a group and more like taking on a single massive monster. The creature's claw-like weapon swipes at him with incredible speed. Kazuya ducks under the attack, his focus absolute. But he's immediately met with a powerful shield bash from the other side. He cries out as he's forced to block the heavy shield with his bare hands. Kazuya endures the blow, dismissing their skills as insufficient to pose a real threat. The armored student cries out in frustration, looking up at Kazuya. Kazuya swings his staff with powerful intent, thinking that if just one of them falls, the entire coordinated unit will naturally crumble. Kazuya stands amidst a rain of thrown weapons, his gaze sharp and unwavering. He looks down at his opponents, expressing his boredom with their predictable tactics. Kazuya observes the scattered weapons, acknowledging their impressive teamwork. He wonders how long they must have practiced to achieve such coordination. Kageyama and his allies review the match details, which were only revealed today. His allies express disbelief that Kageyama managed to coordinate so many people in such a short time. But Kageyama questions if Kazuya truly understands the situation. He then unleashes another fighter into the arena. The newcomer declares this entire setup was designed to take Kazuya down. He lunges forward with what he calls the perfect strike. Kazuya's eyes widen in genuine surprise for the first time. The attacker had been hidden amongst the volley of thrown weapons. With a look of pure determination, the student brings his weapon down. The blow connects with Kazuya's staff with incredible force. From the stands, his parents can only scream his name in terror. Kageyama, however, watches with a cold and calculated satisfaction. Kazuya takes the hit, a sudden realization dawning on him. He admits it was an amazing tactic, but as he lands a counterpunch, he knows his opponent isn't strong enough. With the attacker defeated, he turns his attention to Kageyama, noting that only a few are left. He calmly asks if the mastermind has any other plans for him. Kageyama scoffs, telling the cheater boss not to get carried away. But then another armored student steps into the arena. The blonde woman apologizes to Karen, declaring that she's joining the fight. Others agree, realizing that if they all join forces, they might actually stand a chance. All eyes turn to Karen, asking what she plans to do. She turns away, her voice trailing off as she struggles with her decision. The blonde woman turns to Karen, asking what she plans to do. Karen can only hesitate, her expression filled with conflict. But she ultimately declares that she wants to fight him fair and square. The blonde woman seems to have expected that answer. Her own hand tightens around the hilt of her sword. She tells Karen that her sense of honor is what makes her so admirable. But she can't afford such luxuries, vowing to get Kazuya's secret by any means necessary. With her sword raised, she calls out Kazuya's name. She asks if he's going to complain about their underhanded tactics. Kazuya just stares back, completely unfazed by the challenge. Kazuya just stares back, telling her he has no complaints at all. In fact, a wild grin spreads across his face. The warm-up is finally over. The blonde woman grits her teeth, clearly annoyed by his attitude. She calls him charmless as he leaps into the fray, but he's immediately swarmed by the other students, unable to attack them all at once. He realizes he has no other choice, and though Oda warned him not to overdo it, he decides it's finally time to get serious. From the crowd, Oda screams his name, calling him an idiot for his recklessness. She rushes forward, grabbing his staff and begging him to stop. She can only hope that in this chaotic fight, Kazuya doesn't end up getting seriously hurt. But as he tries to attack, his staff is easily blocked by a shield. A look of pure confusion crosses Kazuya's face. He tries to channel his powerful break attack skill, but for some reason, the ability simply won't activate. He grunts as he's pushed back by the force of the blow. From the stands, Kageyama watches with a cold, knowing gaze. Kazuya is sent flying backward as the students shout in pursuit. Their confidence surges, believing they can finally overwhelm him with sheer numbers. But Kazuya grits his teeth, refusing to be overwhelmed. He's forced to dodge and weave, his staff barely holding against the coordinated assault. Shiger points out that Kazuya has let his guard down. A bead of sweat forms as Kazuya realizes he's in a truly dangerous situation. He plants his foot, preparing to change his tactics. With a burst of speed, he leaps through the air, trying to create some distance. He knows he can still use his physical enhancement magic, but his opponents are just as fast, and for some reason his powerful bash skill still won't activate. A look of dawning horror crosses his face as he finally understands why. From the sidelines, Karen can only wonder why Kazuya isn't using any of his skills. From the sidelines, Oda explains that it's only natural his skills aren't working. The weapon Kazuya is holding, the Sugiyama Deluxe, was a staff, not a mace. And unlike his other weapons, he has absolutely no proficiency with it. He'd completely forgotten the basic game mechanics the blacksmith warned him about. With this weapon, the only thing he can rely on is his magic, and he's up against an entire horde of armored opponents. A low, almost pained laugh escapes him, but his face twists into a wild grin. Now things are getting exciting. His hand trembles, not with fear, but with pure, unadulterated joy. Naruko's eyes burn with a new fire, ready to face the challenge head-on. But for Kazuya, this is more than a challenge. It's the perfect opportunity to grow stronger. He dives back into the fray, a blur of motion against the armored horde. His face is a mask of pure, unyielding determination. He brings his staff down with a powerful strike, felling another opponent. Even as he's attacked from behind, he uses the chaos to his advantage. The other students can only cry out, overwhelmed by his relentless assault. The student with the visor watches the battle with a grim and serious expression. In the stands, his parents can only look on in absolute horror. Even the principal and Mr. Ujihara are left speechless by the brutal display. His parents can only watch, his father's face a mask of pure anxiety. Oda's expression is grim, her gaze fixed on the brutal fight, and Karen looks on with a quiet, unreadable intensity. Kazuya stands alone, surrounded by the bodies of his defeated classmates. He's battered and bruised, breathing heavily from the sheer exertion. The remaining students can't believe that even with their numbers, they couldn't take him down. He stumbles to a knee, realizing his healing magic can no longer keep up with the damage. But with a determined glare, he acknowledges that he's finally defeated the last of them. Just then, a new challenger steps forward, her armor gleaming in the light. Kazuya looks up with a tired smirk, realizing that Karen is the only one left standing. She offers him a potion, telling him to drink it. Kazuya looks down at the high potion, a powerful healing item. Karen explains that it will restore him to full strength in an instant. The other students are furious, questioning why she's helping their opponent. But the blonde woman explains there's no honor in fighting him while he's weakened. Karen declares that to be the strongest, she must defeat Kazuya at his absolute best. The blonde woman can only watch, whispering Karen's name in admiration. Kazuya looks up, his gaze finding a familiar face in the crowd. He calls out to Oda, who has been watching the entire time. Oda smiles back, calling out to Karen with a look of approval. Oda compliments Karen's armor, glad she came to watch the tournament. The praise brings a bright, genuine smile to Karen's face. But Oda senses her friend's doubt, noting that she seems to have lost her confidence. Oda admits that Kazuya's insane work ethic has made her question her own efforts. Karen looks down, confessing that she feels the exact same way. But his example has also reminded her just how important it is to keep trying. Oda looks up, understanding the conflict her friend is going through. She then presents Karen with a high potion she bought with her own savings. She knows Karen wants to face Kazuya with everything she's got. With a casual wave, she leaves the choice of how to use it entirely up to her. Oda smiles, certain that Karen would do the same for any true rival. Karen looks down at the potion, whispering her friend's name in gratitude. But their moment is cut short as the announcer panics, realizing the ceremony is about to start. Kazuya holds the potion, his gaze fixed on Karen as he prepares to refuse her offer. He insists that even without an item like this, he has his own way of fighting at full strength. Karen's expression hardens, her resolve meeting his own. Kazuya acknowledges her honorable intentions, but he has a point to prove. He crushes the bottle in his hand, warning her that she's about to regret this decision. With a determined glare, he declares that he's now fully recovered on his own. With a fierce cry, Karen lunges forward, vowing that she will not be defeated. Kazuya meets her charge with a roar of his own, and their weapons meet in a powerful, resounding clash. He swings his staff with incredible force, but she's just as fast. A confident smirk spreads across his face. This is the fight he's been waiting for. He presses his attack, but her defenses hold firm against the blow. She grits her teeth, pushing back with all of her strength. Her shield is chipped, but her stance remains unbroken. He admits with a grin that a single blow won't be enough to take her down. Karen returns his gaze with a confident smirk of her own. He confirms with a smirk that it won't be nearly that easy. He moves in a blur of motion, his eyes locked on his target. He meets her next strike with a powerful block, their weapons clashing as she presses her relentless assault. Kazuya leaps back, narrowly dodging a low sweep from her blade. But she gives him no room to breathe, bringing her sword down again. A flurry of sparks erupts as their weapons meet again and again. Karen's expression is one of pure, unyielding focus. They lock weapons, a brief stalemate in their furious exchange. But she breaks the deadlock with a powerful spin, sending him stumbling back. Karen, masked and determined, holds her sword ready for the next move. Kazuya's father, in full armor, watches the intense battle from afar. Karen adjusts her mask, her focus unwavering as she prepares to strike. Kazuya's father, bruised and worried, warns everyone to stay out of the fight. His parents watch in shock as Kazuya and Karen continue their fierce duel. Karen insists that no interference is allowed, her resolve firm against Kazuya. Kazuya grins wildly, clearly enjoying the challenge, as Karen looks on with a flustered expression. He brings his staff down with incredible force, striking Karen's shield directly. Kazuya's eyes burn with fierce concentration, pouring all his power into the blow. Karen looks on in shock and frustration, realizing her shield has been damaged. He brings his staff down again, refusing to give her a moment's rest. But she meets the blow with her sword, the impact echoing through the arena. The sheer force of the strike sends her stumbling to the ground. She struggles to her knees, battered and exhausted from the relentless assault. Kazuya can't help but be impressed, admitting he didn't expect her to be so persistent. But Karen's eyes still burn with an unyielding, defiant fire. He tightens his grip on his weapon, deciding it's time to end this. With a final cry, he declares that the game is officially over. He unleashes a final devastating strike, telling her to move as the blow descends. The girl commands movement, launching a focused aerial attack. Her blade slices armor, unleashing destructive force. She shouts, demanding the path be cleared immediately. The hero charges forward, blasting the ground beneath him. The enemy is stunned by the girl's sudden disappearance. The hero realizes she vanished from his sight. He tenses up, preparing to track the next strike. The girl soars upward, spinning into a deadly leap. The onlookers are shocked by the inhuman jump height. She prepares to deliver a crushing blow from above. But Karen meets the blow with everything she has, blocking the powerful strike. Their eyes lock in a moment of pure, unyielding intensity. The sheer force of the impact sends her flying backward across the arena. But she lands on her feet, activating a physical enhancement skill of her own. From the stands, the mysterious student realizes what's just happened. Kazuya understands that in the heat of battle, she's just acquired a brand new skill. And a wide, genuine grin spreads across his face. He thinks it's awesome. He realizes with a jolt of excitement that Karen has grown stronger. Right in the middle of their fight, he meets her renewed assault, the duel now reaching a whole new level. Kazuya notes that her attacks are now far more powerful than before. She leaps back, creating distance for her next assault. But Kazuya realizes something is off, guessing that she's already feeling the strain of her newfound power. He figures she hasn't even realized she's acquired a new skill, and what's worse, her stamina can't keep up with the skill's demands. He blocks another one of her powerful strikes, knowing that if possible, he really wants to draw the full potential out of her in this fight. He tightens his grip, ready to end this fight on his own terms. But Karen grits her teeth, refusing to give in to the exhaustion. Their weapons meet again in a deafening, powerful clash. As she's knocked back, he asks if she's already at her limit. But her frustration boils over. She's tired of being compared to the strongest. The crowd can only wonder what he's saying to provoke her like this. A cold realization dawns on Kazuya as he figures out her motivation. He then brings up her older sister, a figure she clearly admires. And with a cruel smirk, he declares that her sister wasn't that strong either. The insult hits its mark, their gazes locking in a moment of pure intensity. He points out that she spent 3 long years just to learn a single skill. And with a cold dismissal, he suggests that this is the absolute limit of her power. He sighs, calling this entire fight a complete waste of his time. But his words finally ignite a fire in her eyes. She lunges forward with a furious roar, unleashing all of her pent-up frustration. Kazuya meets the blow, feeling the incredible power behind her new skill. She grits her teeth, her voice filled with rage, warning him never to mock her or her sister again. But a wild grin spreads across Kazuya's face. He's certain of it now. His sudden change in demeanor leaves Karen completely bewildered. Her rage finally boils over, screaming for her sister and everyone he's insulted. She lunges forward with a powerful full-body strike, closing the distance with incredible speed. Her eyes burn with a fierce determination, vowing that she will not give him a single moment to dodge this attack. Kazuya's eyes widen, realizing he's been caught completely off guard. Their weapons meet in a cataclysmic explosion of force. She screams with pure, unadulterated fury, putting everything into the blow. The impact shatters the ground beneath them, sending shockwaves through the arena. But Kazuya just barely manages to block the strike, admitting it was a close call. But his hands tighten around the staff. Because this is what makes it a true fight. Karen lets out a furious roar, a battle to decide. Which one of them is truly the strongest? Their final clash sends a massive shockwave, throwing Karen backward from the sheer force.